the final part of 2010 Movie Viewing Mentions Part 4. And Wetboy 4, I promise you my next review after this will be Spider-Man 3. So here we go, let's get this out of the way. So this now goes into the April approaching start of May standpoint for me. Anyway, first on the list in no particularly any particularly random order is How to Train Your Dragon. Oh god. Okay, I'm gonna start by saying I saw this film twice. And let's just explain the plot first. The plot is Hiccup, strange name I know. He lives on an island with his father, voiced by Gerard Butler, and basically what happens is that they have dragons to, hunt down and capture for food and whatnot, as they attempt to steal things from the tribe and go away with them. But of course what happens is that Hiccup wants to be a dragon slayer, a dragon fighter. And one day he encounters a fallen dragon, but typical, as you probably predictable, he decides to befriend it. And that therefore spawns a little bit of a war between the tribe and the dragons. Let's start off by saying that I saw this film twice in 3D. First in ordinary, second in IMAX 3D. So I'll get to those in a moment. Let's start with the first time. The first time, when I was up in Manchester the other week, about a month ago, I saw this film in 3D. Then with me auntie and my 5-year-old cousin and his friend. So when we saw it, everyone else really liked it. I did not like it. I think that the start of it was it dropped and changed all over the place. It didn't for me do what I was hoping it would. And I left the cinema at that time feeling extremely disappointed, even though thankfully it wasn't terrible, but at the time it was just averagely okay. So not quite a success for me the first time. The second time I saw it, I liked it a lot better, and I realised what this film was trying to do, but partly because I think the film's story, let's first start off by saying that the action sequences in 3D are amazing. DreamWorks animation easily tops Pixar's, because they are really good at showing how 3D is meant to be used in animation, unlike the likes of, say, Up, which did probably nothing for the 3D whatsoever. But I actually liked it better, and in IMAX 3D I have to say it was pretty impressive, despite the lack of actual IMAX sequences in it. Every time you see a movie in IMAX, there's never any in it. It annoys me to death. But overall, look, I really enjoyed How to Train Your Dragon the second time, and I think that it really delivered what it was trying to do, but I just didn't quite see it as clearly the first time. So enough of me ranting on about that. 4 stars out of 5 stars for How to Train Your Dragon. So let's move on to the next film in this list. And the next film is Clash of the Titans. Now this film I also saw when I was up in Manchester. I saw this in 3D. Sucked. The film didn't suck, but the 3D sucked in this film. Wasn't needed. Should have seen it in 2D. Anyway, the plot of this. Sam Worthington plays Perseus, who was adopted by a fisherman at a young age. And his family one day gets murdered by a god. And he's therefore expected to fulfill a destiny to bring peace and end the war between the gods, which is Zeus, played by Liam Neeson, and Hades, played by Ralph Fiennes. So basically becomes like a quest, blah blah blah, and all this stuff I've seen before. But I straight up front really liked this movie though. I think the action sequences were great. The storyline I thought was very well told. It moved along at a pretty steady pace, despite it being a little bit slow in the beginning. The only thing I would say is that I expected a bit more sequences from the Kraken. I think I expected to turn up more than once in the movie, unless they were trying to build up to that point. But who knows? I don't know why that films like this get negative reviews, but they are actually fun for me to watch. So 4 stars out of 5 for Clash of the Titans. Next is, which one shall I go for next? Date Night. This stars Steve Carell and Tina Fey, and this basically revolves around the story of how Phil Foster and Claire Foster, they see that another couple's marriage just failed because they couldn't work anything out. I'll just alter this, sorry. They could not work anything out in their relationship whatsoever. And so Phil decides, oh I know, let's go and pay a visit to the fanciest restaurant in town. Is there any seats left? No. Oh well, we'll just pretend to be the Triple Horns. But it ends up becoming a much more unexpected turn of events than they might think. So it's just basically them trying to stay alive for the rest of the film. Now, I really like the plot of this film. It was something original, and this is directed by Shawn Levy, who did the first two Night at the Museum films, first Pink Panther, starring Steve Martin, and first Cheaper by the Dozen. All films of which I really like, and I have them on DVD. But with Date Night, I think he really excelled it to another level, and some of the comedy's fantastic. You know, I might say in one scene, Tina Fey looks hot, and you'll know which scene I'm talking about when you come to it. Let's just say it involves a pole near the end. All I'll say there. But you know, the story was pretty well told. Action was pretty good. Some of the one car chase where two cars are connected by the fronts of the cars. I just something so original, and I couldn't help but laugh at it. Criticisms, though, involve way too much bloody shouting from the main characters. Every time they shouted over and over and over again, it was just, come on, can you just say a line of dialogue instead of just repeatedly spurting it out at the audience? I mean, Jesus. Even though I'm not going to disrespect His Holiness there. Not get into my religious views. But anyways, I think that, you know, just putting up, I just hated all the shouting sequences, and admittedly, some parts of the movie were a bit lame. But nonetheless, though, I still enjoyed the movie for its story, its comedy, the characters are well developed, and some of the action sequences are pretty good. So again, for the third time in a row, 4 stars out of 5 for Date Night. Next, now this is a film that's been released in England, although I'm not sure if America's seen this, but it's called The Ghostwriter. And this stars Ewan McGregor and Pierce Brosnan. So basically, Ewan McGregor stars as the Ghostwriter for the Prime Minister, Pierce Brosnan, and this tries to solve disappearances and crimes and whatnot, and it links to the previous Prime Minister, but it also links to the CIA. So it's sort of like a British version of State of Play, put it that way. Okay, now this movie itself was actually, I thought it was fantastic all the way through. It was a good thriller, it had really good storylines, the characters were interesting, and the pacing was awesome, it was brilliant, nothing wrong with it. So, why am I not saying that all of it was fantastic? Well, all films have to end, don't they? They all have to end, right? It was pretty much fantastic for about 95% of this movie. This is the same problem I had with the film Knowing, but the ending was awful. Literally the last scene of the movie, it just ends on such a sudden note, and I wanted more of a conclusion from it. So unfortunately, the ending just sucked. The movie was brilliant, but the ending sucked. So, hey ho. Acting was also very good, and story was pretty original, interesting as well. So again, for the 4th time, 4 stars out of 5 for The Ghostwriter. Next is Kick-Ass! I wanted to save this till last because I, straight up front, loved this movie. Despite not being perfect, I still fell in love with it. And it basically stars Aaron Johnson as, God, I've forgotten his name. Oh, either way, he stars as a high school teenager who basically decides, you know what, I'm going to go and put on a suit and fight crime. How bad can it be? He discovers it pretty easily, I can tell you. Kick-Ass for me, you know, I mean, so he becomes Hit Girl and Big Daddy assist Kick-Ass in fighting certain criminals and whatnot, and the villain's played by Mark Strong. You know, I can't even do the plot justice. Just go and see the freaking movie. It is very violent. I will say this. It is super funny, but it is extremely violent as well. So, if anyone's squeamish about blood and guts and whatnot, well, guts aren't necessarily in this movie. If you're squeamish about seeing a bit of blood, I advise you not to see this movie. But Kick-Ass for me delivered everything I wanted it to. I didn't know what to expect from it. It wasn't that well advertised. I'll admit the teaser trailer sucked for it. But Kick-Ass, the theatrical trailer made it look brilliant. And it was brilliant, thankfully, when I saw it. You know, the character development was good, acting was very good, story was well told, the pacing was very good, the comedy is hilarious, and the action sequences are great as well. You know, almost everything about this movie is perfect. You know, I think maybe the only things that didn't really work for me is, I think sometimes it did go out of places and a bit too dark in some ways. But that's just nitpicking. But overall, I'm going to give Kick-Ass 4.5 stars. Whatever that is. And I think that it's definitely one of the best films I've seen so far this year, and I'm certainly going to get it on DVD when it comes out. So freaking funny. And last thing I'm going to mention is that I saw Iron Man 2 a second time, and it made me fall in love with the movie. I think it's on a par with the original, not better or worse, but I will get it on DVD when it's released. So thank you for listening to my 2010 movie viewing mentions so far. Maybe later in the year I'll post more, who knows. And until next time, YouTube, I will be signing out until I review Spider-Man 3. I'm putting that video off for months, sorry, weeks.